Bad pricing can kill a good app. And this would happen to me when I was selling monthly and yearly plan for my apps just because I saw it on X. And in this video, I'm going to share what I changed, what is the current monetization model that I have that pushed me from $200 per month to $4,000 for my app portfolio. I'm going to cover what plans do I sell, do I have a free trial, do I do localization, and what do I think about hard paywall or freemium apps? Alright, so my current pricing is pretty simple. I have lifetime plan and monthly plan. Lifetime is $19.99 and monthly is $3.99 with 7-day free trial. There are a few interesting details about this pricing. First is this price is not the same for all countries. I have 3 tiers of pricing. I have 100%, this is rich countries, US, Europe. Then I have 40% discount. This is basically developing countries in Europe, developing countries in Asia, Latin America, and I have 70% discount. And this is like everything else. And this pricing has been very promising to me because with this pricing, I start to see sales from countries that are usually just downloading and deleting apps. This is better than nothing. Obviously, you want to get as much revenue as possible, but with some countries, it's not possible and you need to make some trade-offs. Second thing is free trial on monthly plan. I tried 3 days, I tried no free trial, and I tried 7 days. And from my experience, the 7-day is the best option for multiple reasons. First, if you don't have a free trial, you will see that you will get a lot of bad reviews because people can't try your app for free. And if you only do ads, maybe that makes sense because you get money upfront. But if you are relying on App Store optimization, you kind of want to have at least one option for users to try the app for free. Secondly, I tried 3 days, I tried 7 days. From my experience, 7-day trial converts better because people stress less about this. So they don't have the mental model that I need to cancel the free trial as soon as possible. They kind of start the trial and then just either use it or forget about it, but they don't cancel in 10 seconds. And the third, the most interesting thing is the 2 plans that I currently use is lifetime plan and monthly plan. I think that lifetime is definitely an underrated revenue tactic that not a lot of indie hackers use because I think iOS apps are super saturated with subscription and people are tired of subscriptions. They don't actually want to have as many subscriptions as they do in their lives. And I think lifetime plan is a great thing. It's a win-win for me, it's a win-win for user because I get all money up front, user get charged once and they don't need to think about the app. It was working really good for me so far and most of my revenue come from lifetime plan. You will see on Twitter that a lot of people value weekly plan a lot and I think it's really good, but at the same time the weekly plan will have the highest churn of anything because yes, some people will use your app weekly and they will get value weekly, but most of the apps don't have this amount of value and instead, what will happen, the user will cancel after the first charge, after the free trial. And from my experience and the data that I read from RevenueCat, for example, monthly beats weekly long term. Again, there are obviously exceptions for this. If you run ads and you feel like your app, it has a good match with this weekly usage, maybe, people use it really heavily for a few weeks. Yes, obviously charge weekly, you do you. But for my apps, from my experience, weekly is really tempting, but it's not working as good, long term. Why do I only have 2 plans? Honestly, I tried multiple strategies. Initially, I tried just monthly and yearly. Then I tried lifetime, yearly and monthly or weekly. I tried a lot of things. My current strategy is very simple. I want a user to have a no-brainer choice when they finish an onboarding. My goal is not to maximize profits or, maximize lifetime value. My goal is to maximize the number of sales I get per day. So if the user downloads the app, I want them to make a decision on the spot without thinking too much about this. This strategy kind of impacts 2 things. First, the pricings need to be affordable. If they need to think, if they need to be like, do I want this? Do I not want to? Do I need to sleep on it? This is not good for me because most of the people will go sleep on the decision and will never come back. I want them to buy on the spot. Secondly, I want users to have clarity what option is the best. And with 2 plans, I think it's working really good because if the user is serious about this problem, they see lifetime option, they're like, that's perfect. I pay once, I get value, that's it. And again, it works for me. I get all the money upfront. I understand the average revenue per user. I understand how much money will I generate every month. I think that's good. If the user doesn't want this and they want to try the app instead, they have one clear option, is a monthly plan with a free trial. I try to have annually as a decoy, so it's you have like an option to try with free trial, but it's less good than lifetime plan. But I think it's more confusing than helpful. I think when you have 3 plans in app, that's kind of too much decision making. Again, I bet it works for some apps, sure, but right now my strategy is to make the decision as simple as possible. And that's two plans. One of them is lifetime with no trial, and second one is monthly with free trial. So let's talk about elephant in the room, lifetime plan. Most of my apps are very simple. They are trackers or reminders that are run on the iPhone. There is no server, no account management. Everything is stored on the device and I have zero cost. So for me, it works perfectly. I get $20 and minus 15% from Apple, and then the user can use this app for the eternity. And I think for those kind of apps, the lifetime plan is almost mandatory because people don't want to pay subscription for simple apps. I think people are okay paying subscription for complex apps where you kind of expect a cost, a recurring cost, but this is not the type of the app. Zero hesitation on my side, user pays once and gets the value. There is second tier of apps in my portfolio that have some sort of AA cost, and for example image recognition or voice recognition, text analysis, and I offer lifetime for them too. And my reasoning here is people don't use your apps, my apps for sure, but I think apps in general, this much to be concerned over lifetime. Sure, we can imagine a scenario in which user will use every day pushing the limits and just using everything in your app, and you can imagine the cost here. But this is such an unlike scenario because people don't usually use apps this way. They have a period of high activity and most of them at some point churn and stop using the apps. They can come back in the future, but that's not a pattern that they just stick to the end of their lives. That's the first big reason. People just don't use the apps as heavily as you think they do. Second, AI costs are super low right now compared to 2 years ago, for example, when AI models were new and you had huge API costs. Right now you have a lot of cheap but smart models that are available. And if we are honest, if you calculate the AI cost of your average user, that will be cents per month with medium usage. Yeah. And I think having this in mind will give you some sort of calculation that can work pretty safely with good margins. Again, if you are hesitant on lifetime plan, I get it. I understand where this is coming from, but usually it's mostly, just objections in the head. None of this will happen. Most of your users will quit your app after a few weeks. They just buy a peace of mind with a lifetime plan that whenever they will come back to the app will be available. It won't work for every app. And I totally get it. And this is a big advice coming from me that whenever you get any pricing, be very careful what you listen to, because what will work for a water reminder app might not work for a fitness app. And target audience differ. If you open X, you will see that go-to advice is to not offer free trials, do hard paywall, and just sell weekly subscription for $9. This might work for some people that, for example, do ads, but this can fail for 99% of other makers. So obviously get some data point from my experience, but this should not be treated as, the blueprint for every app. I tried increasing my prices, and at some point I was trying to sell lifetime plans for $50. I get sales and it was something happening, but I felt that the conversion was lower and I was not enjoying as much this process. So instead of having maybe 10 or 15 sales per day, I was having maybe 5 sales per day. And I think this for me is a little bit more nervous approach, what I don't like, when all of my daily revenue just happened from 5 sales. And at some days, for example, some weekends, some holidays, you might get 0 sales or just 1 sale. And for some people it's okay. For people who do ads, maybe they don't have this problem because they have a more stable source of traffic, but I didn't like it. Another big topic is, should you do hard paywall or freemium? I think on this specific issue, I'm very confident to say that you should do a hard paywall and not a freemium for multiple reasons. And I do hard paywalls for all of my apps. So first is, the only way to make freemium work is to make great apps. Apps like top 1% of apps in the niche. The app's so good, people download it, and because even though they are free, they give value back to the app by posting it online, by inviting friends, and doing something to the app. For example, some user-generated content. Most of the apps of people who watch this video are not that good. They are simple vibe-coded apps that solve a problem. They are not as good as you think they are. Your apps won't be shared by people. They will not be in ecstasy after using your apps. And my tip is, don't try to make freemium work. Freemium is just an endless pit that will get your installs and produce very little revenue. Instead, do a hard paywall, but give people an option to use your app for free with free trial. Free trial is great because it pushes people to have a credit card. It pushes people to have some sort of, yes, I want to try this and I'm ready to pay for it. Premium is not the same. Premium is like I can download and, open it, whatever. I have no commitment. And most importantly, I think that hard paywall is an ultimate test, because if you have freemium, you can maybe think about installs and other things, session duration, and all of these vanity metrics. But ultimately, if the app can only generate installs and not sales, this is a useless app. Maybe it's like it was joy to build and it's your passion project, okay, sure. But if you want to make living from it, your only metric should be revenue per user, and not installs. So I think overall, yes, sure, I can understand freemium for games, for example, or some apps I can imagine. But like the basic go-to default tip would be do a hard paywall with a free trial version. In this way, you get, I think, the best from both worlds. So what else can I suggest about the pricing from my experience? So first, when you think about the design of paywall, you can be tempted to use a lot of conversion tactics that you see on X. For example, timers, some limited deals, some great tactics, how you present the subscription. And my go-to advice would be, don't do this. I understand that you might get some sales in it, but the chance that Apple review team will see this and say, oh, your app doesn't actually meet the criteria is quite high. And some people will go ahead and do even worse thing. They will kind of submit one version of paywall to Apple review team, but the real version of paywall starts to show in 7 days, and just hide the real paywall from the Apple review team. This is the worst thing you can do. Yes, you will capitalize on some revenue, you will leverage some users, but at some point, Apple review team will know about this, and your app can be just deleted from App Store. At best, at worst, your whole account will get banned. Obviously, you always manipulate user. If you, for example, say that lifetime plan is best value, it's a manipulation, of course, because who decides what is best value or not? But I think that, some tactics are okay, and we all can agree that yes, it's okay. But most of the great tactics are not okay, and I definitely recommend not using them, even though you will miss out on some revenue. One more counterintuitive tip is to think about your does it feel. If you open X again, you will see a lot of advice that you should increase your prices and, just charge more. People can pay for this. And sometimes it's true. When I see people, selling maybe lifetime plans for $5 to US, yes, it's too low. People in US will not feel the difference of $5 and $10 for an app, but this is like twice more the margin. But at the same time, I urge you to think not just with the, axis of the price, but also with an axis of the value of the app. If your app is not that valuable, for example, it's a simple water reminder tool, right? You should not charge $50 per year for such app. You can try it, but most of the users, they understand that this is not $50. 10 years ago, sure, maybe people were not that familiar with average prices for things, but now everyone understands it better, and they have a feeling that, yeah, this is overpriced, this is underpriced. If you are selling a subscription tracker for target audience that ultimately is broke because they need to track their subscriptions to lower their costs of living, you should not charge $50 per year for such tool, because your audience just doesn't have this. They might have $20, they might have some of them $10, and for them it might be a no-brainer price to pay for this, but they don't have $50 for an annual subscription to track subscription. So I definitely recommend thinking about your pricing from the position of the user, and not just what you want to make from them, but also what they are willing to pay. And to continue this idea, definitely localize your prices. The $20 that you sell to US is not the same $20 in, for example, Slovakia or Thailand or Argentina. These are different countries. People have different wages, and if you can localize the price and it has zero impact on your servers, do it, because you will just get more sales from countries that you didn't get before, especially if you are in App Store optimization, especially if you localize your app to 50 languages. You should localize prices too. I have a Cloud Code skill that I use, and it's very convenient. There are multiple ways to localize the price, and I will leave a link to GitHub skill. So use it to localize your prices from your terminal. You don't even need to open App Store Connect and think about this. All right, that's it about the pricing. I think this is one of the key things in app marketing, because we talk about how to acquire users, we talk about onboarding, but this is like a final 100 meters, a finishing touch. If your pricing doesn't make sense for your audience, and it's just not as appealing to them as you want them to be, you will not get as much revenue as you want. And working on your pricing can change everything about your revenue. Maybe you have enough installs already, you are not just converting enough because you have a bad pricing. If you want me to give feedback on your pricing, you can actually leave a comment and I will tell you my thoughts, or you can DM me. If you don't want your app to be visible, just include a screenshot of your paywall and what your app do, and I will try to give you some feedback. So thank you, and in the next video I will share how my apps were doing in August. A lot of interesting revenue insights.